Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 19, now ready for departure.
Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express Monorail. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're entering the vacation kingdom of the world.
There's enough land here to hold all the ideas and plans we could possibly imagine. We call it Epcot. Will be our experimental prototype city of tomorrow.
Welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World podcast, taking you back to the vacation kingdom of the world, the way it was, and the way it is in your memories.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Retro Disney World podcast, the official podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society. This is episode 84, the Disney Vacation Club, where we'll be taking you back to the origins of the Vacation Club and those early years as what you now know as Old Key West. Sitting with me as always, hold on. I'm your host, Todd McCartney, and sitting in with me as always this evening, and coming in from Ohio, the school year is done. He's relaxing a little bit. Sitting outside sometimes now, Mr. JT Kujar. How are you doing, JT?
I'm great. Ready to go on another episode. Yep. And, I was almost a DVC owner. Ooh. Well, heir to an owner. So I will tell that story of how we were so close to being a member in the 90s. And then my dad said no.
Look at that. Look at that.
Yeah.
And coming in from the city of brotherly love, Mr. Brian Miles. How are you this evening, sir?
Greetings, salutations, and happy summer. The pool opened last week. I haven't missed a day yet, even though it's been a little chilly out there. The water temperature was 67 the first day I jumped in. It's a little brisk, but that's where you'll find me from now through Labor Day.
I was very jealous of your photo yesterday. You were laying in the water. You sent that photo to us and said your current view. And we were having a weird summer here in New Hampshire. I had to put the heat back on. The house was like 62 degrees yesterday and freezing. So yeah, we'll be back. We had 90 degrees days prior. So
yeah, we've had some schizophrenic weather here where it gets into the 80s and then it's in like the 40s at night. So
yep.
Great sleeping weather.
Yeah, it is. And as always, coming in from this city, which I do not have any other names for, I've currently run out until I research more, Mr. Hal Bowers. How are you tonight?
Aloha. That's actually one of our city names, is the city that there's no other names for. Yeah, that's one of our nicknames.
That's completely ran out.
Home of Scientology, the city that's the home of Scientology,
That's right,
That's
Clearwater.
Right,
yeah, get your Thetans.
Your
Thetans ain't cheating.
Your neighbors in Clearwater.
Is it Cigar City? Was that thing I saw that time correct?
Tampa is Cigar City, because we, back in the turn of the century, they did cigar hand rolling there. So yes, that's absolutely right.
Do you know what another big tobacco area was that most people don't know?
Winston-Salem.
Hartford, Connecticut area.
How about that?
Between Hartford and Springfield, Mass., around the Bradley Airport, that the tobacco barns are still there. They still dry tobacco.
Is that why they have the insurance company? The Hartford is from all the people that died of cancer.
It might have been so.
Unrelated.
I did like 7 New England cities in a weekend once. Is Hartford the city where I saw the Mark Twain house? Is that in Hartford?
Yes, it's in West Hartford. Yep, just a little bit right off of 84 there. It's a very interesting home. It's worth a trip.
Our tour. We enjoyed our tour.
Yep.
That was, we were there to see the Hartford Wolfpack play in the old auditorium where the Hartford Whalers used to play hockey.
Yep. Hartford is right in the middle. There's a lot of small cities in New England. It's very interesting because you got Hartford, Springfield, Worcester, Providence, and then you get your bigger Boston and your Manchester and your Concord. So it's really neat. They're all clustered within kind of an hour's drive of each other.
I want to say I was at a minor league hockey game in every single one of those cities that you just named.
Yes, as a team, right?
Yeah, the Springfield Thunderbirds, the Providence Bruins, what was the other one you named? That Worcester has the Ice Cats, I think.
Yeah, you got Portland, Maine as well. New Haven, Connecticut.
The Portland Pirates, I think, is or maybe that's the baseball team there. But
it's Portland Sea Dogs is the
hockey team. I thought they had an AHL
No,
team.
the Sea Dogs is the
baseball team.
Baseball team.
So they might be the Pirates, the hockey team. But yeah, I did a whole thing where we went to a bunch of hockey games and followed our team, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms up there a few years back. And
does anybody know what a sea dog is?
I do not.
It's just like an old sea
It's a seal.
It's a seal, huh?
Really?
It's a seal.
Oh,
Yeah,
that makes
sea
sense.
dog.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's a sea dog.
I just thought it was a
they bark,
dog
right?
with a peg leg and a little patch on its eye. Going, "Arf, arf."
Arf, arf, arf. Well, we have toured our small New England cities and hockey team, semi-professional hockey teams and stuff. But you gentlemen hopefully will be coming up to visit too. We have a place we want to visit here in New England at some point too.
I'm coming this summer.
All right, got one. For those listening, wonder if you're in the area, the well-known tiki bar called Kowloon and Chinese restaurant is going to be closing its doors and reopening in a smaller location on the same property, but they're closing their large place, so we got to make a pilgrimage there. But anyway, enough about that. New England.
I'm going to get tuned up that night. Navy grog. And what's that thing you ordered, the 2-for-1 now? We were out west at the tiki bar that's since closed. The guys, it was for two. And Hal said, I'll take one. He said, well, that's for two people. He said, I'll take one.
I'll take one. 1 for 2, not 2 for 1.
Yeah. I remember it was served in a shell, but I can't remember what the drink was off the top of my head now. But.
Probably a grog or a fog or one of those.
Oh, it was delicious.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's head over to the mailbag. JT actually has a helper in his office. His daughter is helping him out tonight with the mailbag, and she's arranged everything.
She's a producer.
She's producing this segment, so a big shout out to Lily for helping us. So what do we got, JT?
All right, we got a little potpourri like usual. Yeah. The mailbag is full. Some stuff on some current episodes and some other things as well. First off, Zach Brown, not of the band. Zach Brown says, I want to take a moment to thank you all for your passion project. As you know, there are more Disney podcasts than anyone could ever need. But I truly think that yours is among the greatest. Now, this got my attention, obviously. Your attention to detail, love for classic Walt Disney World, and brotherly banter is what keeps me coming back from time and time again. Now, this is what I like. I like hearing when and how people listen. I don't know why that really fascinates me. Zach is in pest control down in Florida, and he says at the time he had a lot of time to listen to music and podcasts. He hopped on Retro Disney World. He got hooked, and over the following months, he binged all the episodes and caught up on the newest ones. He wants to thank us for keeping company that first year, as well as giving him a new appreciation for the history of the Disney resorts.
Very nice. Well, that's a great thing to say, JT. I really don't know when people listen to us, and if anybody writes in and says, well, when I can't sleep at night, I use you guys to go to fall asleep. Then we know we're done, right? When that's that email comes in, we're done.
We should have.
I sent a survey coming from you.
Yeah, we should have a thing like, where's the weirdest place you've ever listened to our podcast?
Let's do it. There we go. We should do that right now. Have everybody write in. Where's the weirdest place you've listened to the podcast? And we will filter them out. So if it's something really weird, send them in.
Don't say in the butt, Bob, because we know that's not a good answer.
Let's get weird, everybody. Yep. Here we go. All right. Speaking of places listening, that was a perfect segue because John wrote us, and I feel like we've had a few of these before, but these always connect with me. John started listening during his marathon training the past year. And if you've trained for a marathon, you know that's at least a 4 to 6 month process if you're starting from the couch. He completed the marathon in Florida back in January, so congrats on that. And then he mentioned the classic photo op that they always have there, which had Mr. Toad and the Nautilus from 20,000 Leagues. So it helped him get through many miles of training. So very good job, John, and that's another fun place to listen. Okay, this one is from Scott, and we are going to a little bit of Body Wars. We did that episode a while back. He says he's been catching up. He says we commented many times on the similarities to Star Trek, and the film portion was directed by Leonard Nimoy. But he didn't hear us mention the music in Body Wars. He says the Body Wars score was composed by Leonard Rosenman, who also scored Star Trek IV, which was also a Leonard Nimoy directed film. Which one was for? That's
the Voyage Home.
Voyage Home, not Search for Spock.
No, that's when they're in 1986, right? Circa San Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, he says it came out in 86, and Wonders of Life didn't open until 89, so he assumes that Mr. Nimoy brought him along to this project because of their work on Star Trek, but he was kind of curious if we knew anything about that or any info on how this guy came to work on Body Wars.
I'm sure that's probably it. I know a lot of times people will just say, like, hey, who'd you work with that was good, that you like doing, and, great, give him a call and see if he's available. So I think that totally makes sense.
Okay, well, thank you, Scott, on that one. Appreciate that. That's a good catch, and I really don't know the music from Body Wars, so I'd have to listen to what that sounds like.
It's very dramatic.
It's not one of the ones that you really remember either. But I do remember coming out. It was kind of triumphant as you came off the attraction. So.
It amazingly, I think I've heard some side by side, and it amazingly sounds a lot like some of the music from Star Trek 4. Like,
well, there you go.
Like they might have used Star Trek 4 as a temp score and said, make me stuff like this for this show.
Yep.
That's like when you hear Jerry Goldsmith music and there are just entire sections he borrows from prior compositions. So I remember the movie Air Force One and then hearing something else that Jerry Goldsmith did. And I'm like, these things sound alike.
And then you realize that you're in the Wilderness Lodge and they're playing.
Yes. Now I have to Google and make sure Jerry Goldsmith actually did the music for Air Force One.
I think he did too. Yes, he did. They've been playing a lot there, the theme from Mighty Ducks, which kind of fits, but I don't know if he did that one as well.
It was
but it
Jerry
also sounds
Goldsmith.
He did Air Force One.
Yeah, he did do Air Force One. So.
All right. Well, that's Body Wars is always one. You hear the audio on these theme park radio stations, but I never hear the music, so I'll have to seek that out because I'm curious now. But anyways, thanks a lot, Scott, for that. Appreciate that letter. Okay, next up is Claudia. We're getting into some Disney Institute letters, so buckle up, everybody. Claudia participated in one of the programs. It was in 1996, possibly around April or May. But her and her boyfriend, or now husband, spent the day at the Institute. They were cast members, actually, in the international program at the time, so they got the cast member discount on the activities. It was a while ago, but I remember we did at least 3 classes: cooking, ink and paint, and stand-up comedy. I remember cooking was on site at the Disney Institute in a dedicated kitchen space. We cooked angel hair pasta, and somewhere in my things I still have the recipe. The group was very small. There were probably 6 of us all together, plus the instructor. There might have been 2 instructors. It was a very relaxed, enjoyable experience with lots of tips, and of course, all the ingredients and tools were provided. We also did the ink and paint, again on site, and a dedicated space. All was provided, and I can't quite remember if it was the same group we cooked with, but it was about as small, and I do remember other cast members doing it. It was awesome. We got to learn how to paint cells, and it was super hard, but the session was really fun, and I've never forgotten how hard it was to do, especially when watching the professionals. The last session we did stand-up comedy, and this was at the Adventurers Club in Pleasure Island. We took a van there, and we had a lot of exercises and practice on stage. It was empty, lunchtime, that whole thing. I remember doing lots of acting and body expression stuff, and it was just fun. Again, it was a small group, and I think there were no more than 2 instructors on this one. At some point during the day, we also had lunch at the Disney Institute, and at the end of the day, we also had use of the facilities so we could use the pool and the hot tub. I remember the place being generally empty, sounds about right, and we did think that the fun of that day, who would do that? People came to Walt Disney World to go to the parks, not to learn to cook or whatever, plus it seemed expensive. The location was very restful and relaxing. I do remember having a lovely day wandering around the site, looking at all the buildings, and being amazed that it was all just so empty. But this meant that the pool was only for us. I also wonder if Disney Institute had only just so perhaps they were ramping up, or it had just started, but there wasn't enough interest, so it was made available to cast members at a lower price. I'm sorry I don't remember lots of detail, but that was a long time ago. Well, Claudia, that was a lot of detail. That was a great picture, and as soon as you said, I remember wandering around the site, and it just seemed empty. I just imagined like a shopping mall 5 years ago or something, just being empty and going, where is everybody? But everything's still open at the mall. But that's a good bit of story there.
I also want to say Claudia is a dedicated, like a super fan. She writes to us after most episodes, And she was an international cast. I think we may have read her letter years back, but she was an international cast program participant from Mexico, who, as she mentioned in the letter, married her husband and now lives in the United Kingdom. And I'm bringing all this up because she did email or tweeted us. She rearranged like 17 things on her schedule, and she is flying in from the UK for our event, Retro Magic.
Way.
She was one of the early ticket purchasers the week that they went on sale. So an early thank you, and to our Retro Magic community. You can find out more about Retro Magic at retromagic.org. But it's September 30th and October 1st, being held down in Florida. Lots of great guests coming. But if you see Claudia there, please introduce yourselves to her and say hello and make her feel welcome, because that's amazing that we have somebody flying across the ocean to come.
That's great.
And hang out with a bunch of cool dudes and us.
What a commitment. I appreciate it.
I am going to have to say, though, we did read her letter before.
Yeah.
Well, then we're going to have to cancel this. We can only read one letter per listener.
It's only every 30 days.
That's right.
It's like a sports call-in show.
I'm sorry, caller. You only one call per week. All right, here we go. Another Disney Institute. Bob Smith wrote in. He says, "Hi, JT and team. I saw Brian's tweet asking to share experience, so I thought I'd send mine. Bob actually organized a leadership retreat at Walt Disney World for the company he was working with at the time. While we didn't stay at the Disney Institute, they actually stayed at Coronado, scheduled the agenda so that each of us would be able to attend 2 sessions at the Institute. He did the Art of Disney Topiary and the Art of Disney Architecture. What's interesting to me is I'm very curious what company he worked for. I mean, I don't know. Those two seem so far out of left field, but maybe they didn't have anything that really related. Maybe they got to do one fun one and one, official one. But he says the Topiary one was one of the most popular sessions. It was hands-on. Everyone left with a living topiary to take home. It was about 2.5 hours long, and it took place in a room that was designed for garden-related instruction. The price of the session, he thought, was about $70, included everything. There were about 30 people in the class and 2 instructors. Instructors were pleasant, knowledgeable, and several people from his company attended. I remember laughing and smiling through the entire thing. So good team building, it sounds like. This was a great team building experience. There you go. He just said it. And then none of the souvenirs survived, it sounds like. They didn't make it past the first few weeks, which is a shame. But hopefully you took some pictures, Bob.
I wish the instructor then took them outside and taught them to wax on and wax off and sand the floor and paint the fence after teaching them how to sculpt little trees.
That was actually one of the celebrity guests they promised but never
Ralph
delivered,
Macchio or
Mr.
Miyagi.
Yeah. He came after James Earl Jones and Martin Scorsese. It was finally, Art of Disney Architecture. He's a huge fan of architecture, and they got to do incredibly excited to be in this offering. This was a 2-hour driving tour. That's what I was looking for. So it was driving. I can imagine doing the architecture thing and just staying on property at the Institute. So you have to go around Disney World. They got to drive from building to building, stepping out of the van at each destination for a short walk around the building, being discussed. He was a bit disappointed, though, because it was the plain old 15-passenger van, and we know what that is. He was hoping to tour the property in one of the Disney transport buses, but that's just kind of how it goes. Finally, he doesn't think he was a huge architecture fan. In general, he's talking about actually here his... Oh gosh, I've gotten completely lost now. Hold on. I'm sorry, Todd.
It's okay.
The person leading the tours was pleasant, but that's about it. He didn't really seem to be an architecture fan, but he studied what had to be presented. It was on the level of the tours offered at the theme park in terms of quality and the information presented. Other than the white van, he really enjoyed the session. He's super sorry that the Institute is no more. At this point in his life, he'd really love to spend a few days immersed in this kind of learning for fun environment while being able to take advantage of everything Disney has to offer. So thanks, Bob, for that. I appreciate that letter. It sounds like you had a good time there, though. I wish we had a year on that one. He didn't really say when he went.
This could only have been one of 3 years. So.
That's right.
I'm trying to iron
Just say when. You got 33% chance. All
right, last one here. One more. This is from Eric Smith. Eric and his wife took their honeymoon to Disney in 1997. We had a package at the Disney Institute that included all of our meals way before there was dining packages. We could have had every meal at a table service restaurant if we wanted. In addition, it included a day at the Disney Institute. We each did a session in the morning. He did the computer animation session, while his wife did a cooking session. Had sit-down lunch at what is now the Turf Club, and then did a session at the afternoon. In the afternoon. At the time, the restaurant was named something else, and they were serving healthy food, if I remember correctly. It was interesting, but I think this was at the point where it was already dying. We certainly wouldn't have paid to go over there, but as a free included perk, it was something unique to do. So basically, it sounds like they were trying to get people there, like we talked about, and they, had a vacation package, and it was like, hey, we're going to toss in with your honeymoon a day at the Institute to drum up some visitors. So
still disappointed we didn't get a letter from anybody who remembered going to Dabblers, the store.
Oh yeah, just gonna dabble in this for a little while.
I know. Well, that's Eric. He I was gonna say where he worked, but I won't say that. Thanks, Eric. I appreciate that letter, and that's cool. You did computer animation there. I'd be curious if any of that still sticks. Like, is that anything anybody does today? How, if he did computer animation in 1997 at the Disney Institute, is that like all dead and gone?
I'm trying to think of what they would have put people on in 1997.
Yeah,
Probably.
Do you think they had like a Pixar machine there then? Because that was.
Pixar
was the original machine.
Those were those were so expensive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. 97, the hot things would have been like Indigos from SGI. That's what they used on Jurassic Park. The Max had some 3D stuff.
Yeah.
That was, passable at that point, but it still wasn't sophisticated at that point yet, and really accessible. So I'm actually really curious what they would have taught people on, because learning just the interface and like what does what, like in a 3D system, is so complicated. I can't imagine just in a day like sitting somebody down and being, okay, now start making something. Because depending on
there had to be a preset, like, saved program of objects or something that you could just put together. Because
the model, and then you got to rig it and build the skeleton system and put in the tolerances of like how far the elbow can go and all that stuff. There's a lot to it. So,
buddy, you only got 30 minutes left. You better get this done. Right. You got cooking in 20 minutes here.
Yeah, and my gosh, the world of software has changed so much since then. It's almost a miracle. Like Photoshop and that stuff is still pretty much exactly as it was at that point, with just some new features added. 3D is like, it's a whole, and the computers would be so slow. And
I was just going to say, what the difference is now, everything's faster. Remember when you would have to render something and it'd just be like, I'll come back in 4 hours. Even if you were like burning a DVD, like, it'll be 45 minutes before it's done.
Oh my God, I remember you just walk away, or downloading. I remember downloading games, or demos of games and things. Yeah, on my 9600 baud modem. Yeah. Hour and a half, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
Not for 90 megabytes or something ridiculous.
What do you think they did with the animation? They did something on a computer. They didn't take it home. I wouldn't think they were.
They probably gave them a videotape of it or something like that to take with them. CD-ROM.
like that.
Yeah.
All right. You want to do one more Disney Institute?
Yeah,
keep
sure.
it going. We got a lot of feedback from that episode.
Yeah.
People,
it was a hot one.
All right. This is from Melva. Melva says, sorry I didn't see this yesterday before the show, but anyways, his parents attended, or Melva's parents attended several classes there. The one I remember most was about growing your own topiary. God, man. What is Disney doing? There's not many topiaries left, I feel like. There are, but like, gosh, everybody remembers this. This was like the Disney staple.
Yeah, right?
It was the topiary. Maybe because the two small Mickey topiaries made the 1,000-mile road trip back to Philadelphia in the car. Took several gardening classes there with my mom. Some kind of bark board with an orchid. Whatever that means. The project didn't live long after the class, but the small building where the class was held was really cute. I've been unsuccessful in finding any photos of it online. Well, same with us, Melva. We've found what we found, and there just isn't. It's amazing that what didn't come out of there. Totally different story, though, but I know you guys like old stories. We stayed at the Lake Buena Vista townhouses in 87 and 88. It was fun looking at overlays with Saratoga Springs today to figure out where things were. The area where the turf club is and the golf facility back then are like stepping back in time. Looking forward to the show about the Institute. So thanks, Malvo. Appreciate that story. And another topiary person. God, it makes you wonder, like, if you could see a graph or something of what classes were the most popular.
Right.
I feel like topiary
would be
had to be up there.
You know, it's funny, and to this day, I don't know if they did them this year, but they made the topiary, the grow your own topiaries, which were kind of in the shape of a figure, and they had a little bit of ivy on it. You take it home and grow, and you could also buy the wire frames for like $25 or something. And it's Noah's Ark Topiary.com is who supplied them. So if you go to, we're going to go there, Noah's Ark Topiary, because if you've got an ark, I think a topiary is a very important thing to put in there.
Do they have a buy one get one free on everything at Noah's Ark?
Everything you always get two. You get a pair.
Two of each topiary.
So
it's like a chia pet, like you could almost do. It's
that's exactly kind of what without the
All right. Yeah. Well, you did. Guess what? I got one more.
All right.
They just
keep coming out of the woodwork. The endless mailbag show. Keep going.
I think we've got everybody that attended the Institute has emailed us. There's nobody left. All right, this is from Justin. Great work on your episode. He was a teenage day visitor in the spring of '96 when he tried his hand out at traditional animation, stop motion animation, and not topiary, the radio DJ course.
Oh.
The stop motion course teamed up students to hastily produce a short story in a few hours, and the 2D animation course had us all animate something coming out of a box, which were then spliced together to make one collaborative short film. The DJ course put you in a professionally outfitted radio booth with a partner produce a segment for Radio Disney. No word on whether they broadcast those directly to Radio Disney cruises at Animal Kingdom. In all three classes, here we go, Brian, you left with a VHS or cassette tape of what you had produced that day, and I found it very satisfying and encouraging as a young person wanting to get into entertainment. I was as thrilled as that old lady on top of the rock wall.
There we go.
To my teenage self, the campus felt like a nursing home or a weird adult spa. I didn't really get it, but the actual classrooms were inspiring to be in and felt legit. I was shocked to hear you mention that the complimentary transportation for day guests, because at that time it was really hard to get there, and I remember walking all the way from the village marketplace. When I was even younger, I also participated in the Wonders of Disney World Creative Arts program, which took you around the Magic Kingdom to teach you about design, art, and architecture. I'd love to learn more about the history of that program if you ever do a show on it. All right, Justin, thank you. That's going to close the mailbag unless you guys have any.
I want to know what he did with his life. Is he a DJ or is he an animator now?
He doesn't have a signature on his email to say, but he does show us the day visitor, March 15th, 1996. Gosh, he was there. Well, maybe that was there around then at spring break that year.
Oh, look at that. Maybe you guys crossed paths.
Yeah.
Well, I did rock wall together.
Noah's Ark is now the Moss and Vine Topiary.com. They are still there. They actually are at the Epcot Flower and Garden Festival here in 2023.
Oh.
You can go on their website. You can browse and buy anything. They have ones that are called Mouse, which you know who that looks like. But they have all from snails and butterflies, airplanes, dinosaurs. In fact, you can recreate most of Walt Disney World here. I see a swan. I see a dolphin. I see a camel. You name it, they've got the animals, and you can buy them in 3 different forms. You can buy the frame.
Question.
Yeah.
Do you know any people who have topiary?
No, I might put
on their properties.
I don't know, but I'm kind of tempted to put one in my garden now. But so you can buy the frame, you can buy it stuffed with the material to grow on it, or you can buy it with it planted. So it's just starting. It's got all the stuff in the frame, and they range anywhere from $25 to $200. So there you go. I think we should get a swan and dolphin and grow it now, and it would look really, really great at the Retro Magic. Just put that in there.
Who's going to bring it down?
Can you take them apart and recombine them and make a swalfin?
You could. Yeah, you could. You could do that. Hedge clippers not included.
What would the Swan Reserve topiary look like? Just a box?
It's just a box.
Just a box. So yeah, check it out. mossandvine.topiary.com. Which is what Noah's Ark topiaries were.
Is there a Noah's Arcade site as well? You could hang out with Wayne and Garth.
Very nice. Very nice.
Remember special times with special friends in a special world where the magic never ends. Now at a touch of paradise that everyone can share over and over again.
All right, well, it's time to move on to our main topic here, where we said we'd be talking about the DVC. And before we get into that, gentlemen, I wanted to talk a little bit about mid-'80s and any experiences we had in timeshares. I'm going to tell you a little story first. So we had a very good friend of ours that lived across the street, and he told my family that we're going to see a timeshare. And we were near the Poconos, so Poconos are a lot of timeshares up there. I forget where it was. And my father's like, I'm never going to do this. My mom and father were always against timeshares. I'm never going to do this. And they didn't go, but their friend did. The friend comes back and he said, you're getting a grandfather clock. I'm going to get a grandfather clock. If I sit there for 3 hours and get the spiel and the pitch about the property, is that I have no intention. So he goes. Well, he comes back a day or two later, did the whole thing. And my father says, how did it go? Did you get your grandfather clock? He says, I did. Except it was flat packed. It was cardboard, and you got to put it together and had a AA battery to keep it going. So you had to punch it out of cardboard and assemble. But they gave you a grandfather clock. They didn't say it was made out of.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
It's funny to me that I get that would be an attraction for some people.
Right.
The thing I remember the most, and my parents never remotely would have done anything like this, but I remember the promise was always either a 19-inch color TV or a VCR. If you went and sat through the program and stayed the weekend or whatever it was, that you would get a 19-inch TV or a VCR.
You'd have to
was
go
a
on a
big deal
tour.
in the mid to late 80s.
$400 or $500 item, and you go on the tour, and you just have to keep saying no and no and no. And the thing was that people would always say is that they just constantly pestered you, and they practically wouldn't let you out, and were just chasing you around. And timeshares got a really kind of a bad rap. Did you have any experiences?
No.
Or stories? No.
I mean, we lived in Florida, so
yeah. I mean, I did do it once.
You did go?
When you hold hotel branded credit cards, you probably know, Todd, you get solicited fairly often.
Yep.
And I still get them in the mail.
I had one today from Marriott. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was before Marriott bought Starwood. They have the two resorts down there, the Sheridan resorts near Disney World, and I would go every year Memorial Day weekend when we stopped doing our summers at the shore 10 plus years ago. And so I got solicited over the winter, and it was the 3 nights or 4 nights, whatever it was, for $299 or some rate, but you would get like a full, kitchen, living room, 1-bedroom apartment basically. And it was the newer of there's the original Sheridan resort that's down there. I forget what they're called. And then this newer one that they built over near Darrell Carter Parkway, which is why I remember where it was, because every day I would drive over Darrell Carter Parkway and then had to read about who Darrell Carter was, because that's me. And anyway, so I went went to check in, and their only requirement was that you needed to sit through a 90-minute presentation, and you were not permitted to do it on your first or last day. So, and I scheduled the time and went and met with the guy that schedules the times. And so I scheduled it for a day that I think the day before I was checking out. And I said, all right, I'll do it this day at 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever. And the guy was like, I am getting ready to retire. Like, I don't care if you buy or not. I just need to schedule you. I said, okay. So he scheduled me, and I went up to their presentation suite, and the guy sits there, very energetic guy, the kind of guy that like talks you into joining a gym.
Yep.
And explains to me all of the benefits of owning a timeshare. And I have long, as we'll talk about tonight, have marveled at how stupid I think timeshares are. That I don't understand why I would give you like $20,000 or $15,000 now for future hotel stays. Why don't I just pay for those stays when the time comes? And I have my money now. You don't have my money now.
Exactly.
And so he goes through this whole thing, and it was, you get these points and you can use them here and use them there. And, you take them to Hawaii or go stay in Japan or go. And I'm sitting there, and at one point he leaves the room, and of course they give you nothing in writing. He's scratching things on a piece of paper. And I took a picture of the paper that he had written all of the numbers on. And I don't remember what it was. It was like $15,000, $19,000, something like that. And they would bill you $500 a month for 5 years or something and finance it. But at the end of the day, I was like, this is not for me. And I'll never forget getting to the point where he says, so after it's like 45 minutes of the benefits of vacation and how great they are for your well-being and what a great, and he's like, so what do you think? And I was like, I'm really not interested in, committing to one brand or anything like this. And then of course they're prepared for your no's.
Sure.
So they have it's like trying to cancel cable. There's an instant book they go to where there's the answers.
Okay, what did he say?
And I don't remember, but it was like, it's very flexible and you can use your points. You can trade your points for other things, and you can go to Colorado or you can whatever you decide. If you're saving up for a big trip, for a honeymoon, you can save up your points for 2 years and go. And I just said, nah, I don't think I'm interested. And he says, well, why not? And I said, I just don't think it's for me. I prefer to kind of make my decisions when the time comes. I don't want to commit to anything ahead of time.
Yeah.
And he kind of put his hands on the table and says, well, okay then. And he packed up and went out to tell his supervisor I wasn't buying. And then she came in and offered me a 1 year sample thing for $400 or $500 where I would get to come back for another stay. Something I forget what it was. Whatever it was, when I got home, I agreed to it to get an extra 10,000 Starwood points, which were really valuable back then. But I did exercise my 120-day option to cancel and only lose the $100. But basically, I bought 10,000 points for $100 or whatever it was.
Right.
And I got out of there and didn't buy a timeshare. But
they got some bucks out of you.
But I sat through the thing, and
and
now every now and then I get it, and with the price of hotels now, I'm like, I don't know, $300 for 5 nights. Should I? Shouldn't I? And I always throw it in the trash.
Yep.
So this person did a one-on-one sales session with you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
100%. You go up. They had a whole floor in the one building, and basically you sat down in a waiting room.
I got a deal.
You're at a car dealership, and then they took me back into his office, and he sits there and kind of opens up the folder and is showing me all these beautiful resorts they have all over the world. And it was a one-on-one.
It's almost like when you go and you pick up your new car, and they're like, you need the wheel protection. You need the nitrous oxide in the tires. You need the ceramic coat. So you just blew $50,000 on this car. Let's tack on another $8,000 in
when I bought
necessities.
this car I have now, which is the only brand new car I've ever purchased in my life. I'm finished making the deal with the guy out front, and then he said, I take you back to our finance and sales manager, and he's going to go through some options with you. And as soon as I sat down with the guy, I said, I will let you sit here and tell me whatever you want. I just want you to know ahead of time I'm not buying any of these things.
Yeah.
I don't want extra protection. I don't want paint protection. I don't want tire protection. I don't want an extended warranty on anything.
Yeah.
Yep. I said, you have the best, Hyundais have the best warranty in the business. The engine's guaranteed for 100,000 miles.
Exactly.
Everything else in the car is 60,000 miles. If it starts to go wrong after that, I don't need to buy anything extra. That's it. And he humored me, and he's like, all right, he went through each thing, and he says, but I know you don't want this. I said, you're right.
Yep. And look, that's the view that the timeshare industry back then had, and still does have to this day. But there's a great little quote here. This comes from the Miami Herald in 1986. And we're going to rewind the clocks back a little further. But this was Chuck Cobb chairman and chief executive officer of Arvida, which we'll talk about in a second. And they said to him, should Disney get into the timeshare business? And he said, I think it should. And it says, although timeshares suffers from a great deal of consumer skepticism, Goodkin said that people trust the Disney name. If a Disney company salesman lies, his nose grows. Right? So think about that. All of a sudden, you have a company here that is built on trust and family fun, getting into, and I want to say almost like Walt, cleaning up an industry, right? In a way, cleaning up the amusement park industry, cleaning up the timeshare, or at least doing it differently. There's still sketchy amusement parks and there's still sketchy timeshares. So I thought that was really interesting. When I read that, I immediately thought of these sketchy, sales pitches. But we do turn the clocks back to 1984 with Arvida. Arvida was a development company. And believe it or not, in May 17th, 1984, Disney announced that they were going to purchase them for $200 million in stock from its owners. And the owners were the Bass Brothers of Texas. You may have heard that name before, of obviously large builders and investors.
They were on the board. They were on the Disney board.
Yep. And they thought it was a way to thwart a takeover bid. There was all these different things, but this was the first inkling that, Disney, which became the Disney Development Company, that they were interested in, doing things. Now, Disney wound up divesting later on. They sold it, I think, in 1987. So just a few years later, they wound up selling it to JMB Realty for $404 million. So, then they spent something on it. They probably broke even. They probably did okay. But this is the first idea here, before Eisner's really in there doing his thing and starting out that Disney decade, that's indicative of Disney wanted to get into something more than just theme parks. And I'm going to catch my notes here because there's a lot of different things. I'm going through these different clips, and I have them, news clippings. I got them in order.
Brian, I think I know in one of our older episodes, you'd mentioned one of the things that the Bass Brothers told Eisner was like, look, you're sitting on all this property. Do something with it.
Well, that was their big thing. You have, 43 square miles. You have to develop it. You have to monetize it, So they wanted them, the more hotels, all that expansion was pushed by them to great effect.
So here we are in the Orlando Sentinel, 1985, and this is a real estate consortium commenting that Disney's plans in general with development could have a chilling effect on two markets: timeshare apartments and moderately priced at hotels. And they were actually talking with Disney about what they were going to do and how it would affect Central Florida. And, would they be attracting timeshares and stuff like that? So in those talks, Eisner did confirm that he was talking with several hotel companies, including Hyatt and Marriott, about hotel development. And he wouldn't really elaborate too much more on other things. And they said, they've got other hotel pads that they could build on. It's funny. I read one thing. It said they've got 3 pads around Seven Seas Lagoon. And I was like, okay, this was post Grand Floridian. I'm trying to think what they were referring to, that true pads that they could build on. But, this is almost 40 years ago now. So how you look like you're about to say something.
I'm just trying to think. So they still have the site of the Persian. They still have the site of the Mediterranean / Venetian.
Right.
So that's 2.
I saw something referencing one next to Wilderness, so maybe they're thinking the old Buffalo Junction.
Oh yeah,
that's the third
that makes
one.
Sense too. Yep.
They specifically mentioned Seven Seas Lagoon, and that's where I said, I'm not thinking.
Supposedly, there's a chunk of land between the Ticketed Transportation Center and where the Mediterranean was supposed to go. That's also potentially buildable. And then I guess we'd also have to know whether the wedding pavilion was already in existence at the time that that article was written. Because in theory, you could have put something where the wedding pavilion was too.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Fair enough. And look, hey, anything's a pad as long as you can knock it down, right? The luau's gone. It's a pad.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, depending on the size that you want to build it, it's like you could. I mean, I drove by the DVC Polynesian expansion the other day, and it's not a huge piece of land. It's relatively small.
Yeah.
So
that's why you build up.
Right.
Yep.
If their plan was to build up, they could have certainly put a small boutique hotel there. No problem at all where the wedding pavilion is now.
So we're now in October 1986. There's an article here in the Miami News, and it says the company is pondering a variety of other projects that could include Disney's first timeshare resort. And so there's the kind of thing going on here. And Cobb, I'm trying to see who Cobb was, but anyway, all right, I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to say, it basically says if the timeshare venture is approved, it would be revolutionary with a new design and different marketing. So keep that in mind. All right, so now Brian, you know this paper, the Asbury Park Press.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. As an article.
Readings from Asbury Park, New Jersey.
That's right. Very famous postcard. It's June 25th, 1989. Timeshare's poor reputation appears to rebound. And it's going through how different corporations, including Disney and Marriott and others, are looking into the way that, timeshares are sold. And it says timeshare's reputation is absolutely improving. So the silliness that we talked about in the 70s and 80s is starting to improve here. And at this point, it had grown to a $2 billion industry. So there's no reason why Disney, wouldn't want to get into this. And 1/3 of all the timeshare sales in Florida were in Orlando. So it says right here in the article, it's no surprise that Disney Development Corp has been investing in the timeshare industry for the past 2 years. So this is really we're getting into the meat of it. And here we are in 1990 when things are really starting to take off. So this is the start of the Disney decade. And before we really get into this, I do have to give a shout out. How we've talked about this before, Brian, I think you've done some research. When we come across some articles or places that have done so much research, we want to call them out because we're not going to sit here and just read their stuff, but they've done so much research that it helps us go through it and put it together. So this is dvcinfo.com that has this fantastic year-by-year account of DVC almost up until now. And really, I mean, they've got clips and quotes, and we're just going to touch on some of the different things that went on during, DVC being built. So check it out. If you're excited in this, there's plenty to read on here. So, but Disney decade, right? What's Eisner going to do? He's going to build hotels. This is when we got all the different things that, Caribbean Beach and well, actually, that was built already, right? That was coming. We had.
That opened the same year as the DVC. It was both.
Yeah.
No, that's right. Caribbean Beach opened 88 or 89,
something like that. Yeah, but you had the Grand Floridian and all the Riverside and Port Orleans, all that stuff kicked off. So but
those opened in 90.
Yeah, so they wanted to add 12,000 hotel rooms to Orlando in the next 7 years, and they said they want to have diversity in the product. So Orlando Sentinel reports in November 1990 that the site work had started. And it was right around the front nine of the Lake Buena Vista golf course, which we know now is where Disney's old Key West is.
And now we've created a terrific new way for you and your family to enjoy your fun times. The Disney Vacation Club.
I do want to mention before you go further, since we were talking about Orlando being, where the majority of timeshares were before Disney built this in Florida. We got an email that I remember. We're 9 years now on this podcast. Sometime in the last 9 years, somebody sent us an email suggesting or asking if we could do an episode or tell them more about the Sheraton Vistana Resort, which was the original timeshare resort, the very first one built in the vicinity of Disney. I want to say late 70s.
Okay.
If the person is listening, I want you to know I haven't forgotten about that, and we would have read your letter as part of this episode, but it's on an email system that predates the one that we use now. And all of those emails have been archived. And so Todd is the only one that can actually search for them. And I didn't tell him to do that before this episode. But I do want that person to know that I remember your email and I've been thinking about it throughout this episode.
But we can do a follow-up on the next episode.
We can.
Deep
but,
research.
You know,
So.
if you're out there, if you just want to forward it to us from 7 or 8 years ago, I think that's.
I'm able to dig
what
it up
was said.
somewhere too. So in 1991, the construction bids started coming in for the DVC, and I think tell me if you guys understand this. This is from the Orlando Sentinel. The club, i.e. Disney Vacation Club, isn't taking the usual timeshare approach in which people purchase slices of a property, usually in weekly increments. The Disney project involves memberships. Aren't we doing the same? Aren't we buying a slice of aren't you buying a slice of property?
I mean,
maybe not the weekly part, right?
If you look at, and I watched the 1992 video, promotional video for DVC.
Hi, I'm Lisa, and welcome to the Disney Vacation Club at Walt Disney World Resort. To become one of our members, you purchase a real estate interest in the Disney Vacation Club until the year 2042. With this real estate interest, you'll receive an annual allotment of vacation points. Using these vacation points is easy, and they're designed for flexibility. You can use them to make reservations for different sizes of accommodations, in different seasons of the year, for different lengths of stay at the Disney Vacation Club Resort, all based on availability, of course.
I want to say in the original version of the timeshare, you were actually buying into a particular unit and a particular building. So
in most places, yes, that's correct.
So I think Disney's idea was, you have a home resort, but we are not assigning you, room 27 is not your room
building
forever.
3, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's and
Okay.
then you get the points, and then you can use the points to. It was a purely point-based system rather than actually having a deed to a particular unit in it.
Sure.
So I think that was Disney's difference between the old way and the new way.
And it's
Now I have the opening price here. Do you have that?
not yet. Well, I have some stuff. We're going to get to that in a little bit, but I wanted to.
You're not ready. Don't give us prices yet, JT. He's got to sell us something.
I got to sell this to you, man. It's a beautiful thing.
No, I was going to say I saw 50 years. That's what I see.
Okay, the first one, 50. I think someone went to 30. So, all right, so here's a little quiz for you. The Disney Vacation Club logo features what 3 Earth features? Without looking it up.
Mountains.
Okay.
Water.
Yeah.
And I remember a sun.
Well, Mickey's the sun, yeah.
I guess that's not really a feature. I'm trying to think what the other
skis.
No.
Basketball.
I looked it up. That's
JT's he's got
Go ahead
too much
and
stuff
just
on
give the answer, JT.
It was three palm trees.
trees.
Palm trees.
That's right.
And what did the 3 signify,
Well,
Todd?
I don't know, because what's interesting is they later went to 2. So it started with 3 mountains.
What's the significance?
I don't know. It started with 3 mountains, and we're going to find out later on they changed.
You have something
to
to
2
share with
mountains.
the group, Amazing Larry?
But we get our plans in 1991. We've got a logo. Come down and see the Disney Vacation Club, which was later referred to as the Conch Flats until it later got its old Key West name, but it was the Disney Vacation Club initially. They had a sales center that was in there, and it was the first of 3 different DVC sales centers. Anybody know where the second and third were? Think 90s. You got to think 90s.
Where was the first one?
First one was
there on property.
Just on property. And then they built 2 more on property.
Certainly there had to be one at Lake Buena Vista in the shopping center. No?
Believe it? No.
Magic Kingdom?
Nope.
Okay.
This was before really they got into putting those kiosks nearly everywhere, right?
Maybe the Grand Floridian?
No. They put it on the properties where they were developing it. So later on they put one at Boardwalk. And they put at Saratoga Springs, which is still there today. That's their big one.
Okay.
Over at Saratoga Springs is the one that made
it.
It is the big one. Here it comes. So, but they had a clubhouse.
You're talking about years later. I mean, the Boardwalk didn't open.
Yes. This isn't for now. I'm sorry.
I feel like that's a trick question. We were thinking
all right. we can take that out.
So they would make you go, if you wanted to learn anything, they would make you go to the main place to get the lowdown. There was that's interesting.
And that's where I got this whole packet we'll go through, which is postmarked 93. So I'm not allowed to open it yet until we get to 93, and then we'll take a look at this packet that my grandfather got. We're only in 91 right now, so
gonna break that paper seal here in a moment.
So they had a couple different phases of the resort. They had upwards of a handful of buildings, and they created what they called the DVC Preview Center that opened up in 1991 and was renamed to the Commodore House just a few months later. So it was kind of overlooked the pond. You got a movie presentation.
From the moment that you arrive, you'll feel the warmth of old Key West hospitality in a resort that's simply first class in every way. Stroll down colorful Turtle Crawl Boardwalk, and an array of recreational opportunities awaits you. There's our tropical feature pool, complete with frolicking dolphins. Kids will love Sandcastle Beach. You can navigate a boat around Trumbo Canal, play tennis on one of our lighted courts, a workout in our Nautilus-equipped fitness center, or you can simply relax and unwind. You might enjoy a good book and quiet conversation in the comfort of Papa's Den.
So they had a sales video on a loop. The model building was conveniently right next door. Building 16, and if anybody's curious, but had the NGS. Everybody remember the antique yellow bus that would be under there?
Oh yeah,
that was parked there. So that was big, and it was it's funny. I never got a Key West feel, but calling it the Conch House, or the Commodore House and the Conch Flats, they really were trying to pitch that. But I think when they built it, they really didn't know what they wanted it to be, and really what theming. But it did kind of have a Southern Floridian feel.
It was an old Florida
kind
of thing that they were going for.
I mean, kind of the fascinating thing about Key West when you go there is that there's not really a lot of consistency in the styles. I think what we think of as a Key West house is more likely the kinds of housing that they built at I'm trying to think what that housing development is up in North Florida on the shore. But hang on, let me find the name. Seaside is the name of the so there was this in North Florida. There was this, right on the Panhandle. There was this big development called Seaside, and it was done with the colorful, pastel housing, and it was really a big deal. It was a huge development at the time when it opened, and now I should look up and see what that time was, because I have a feeling Seaside probably heavily influenced what went on there, because it was such a big deal. But if you go to Key West, there's not a lot of what we consider Key West style homes around, which is typically the metal roofs, the pastel colored things. I mean, Key West is such a
it's a hodgepodge.
It is. It's
there's craftsman houses, and there's modern houses, and there's and there's no beach. Right. I always tell people, I'm like, hey, I'm going to Key West. I'm like, you do know there's no beach, right? Like, it's all rocks.
Yeah, there's not a lot going on there. There was a small beach if you go in some place, but really...
Yeah, there's little coves and stuff, but in general, it's, it's bars and dining and beautiful weather.
Yep. So the plan for Seaside was completed in 1985. So I'm guessing Seaside probably came online 87, 88, and then everyone's like, "Hey, look at that thing! We need some of that."
Yeah, because there's a lot more of a Bahamian Bermuda feel to that style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's much more Caribbean in nature than it is Florida.
Right.
Up until after they built these kinds of places, then other places in Florida emulated it.
Right. And it was used for the 1998 movie, The Truman Show. That was
all right.
That was
well, now I guess I have to visit there and say good morning to everybody. And in case I don't see you, Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
It is a lovely place. I have been there, taking pictures of the architecture and stuff, and it is quite nice. It's, you know, this beautiful sort of like pseudo fake Victorian homes everywhere, multi-story, big porches, you know, very white picket fences, the whole like
sounds like Celebration.
Movie.
Yeah.
I think Celebration wished it was that in some ways.
That's true. In a big bubble.
Yeah.
Always blue skies.
But that's where, and then there's a lot of naming of things like the Turtle Crawl. That's from Key West. So there was a lot of the place names from Key West that were put into the old Key West resort to kind of give it that feel.
It's kind of like that. I mean, that was consistent with that altered reality of, Disney taking the California coastal Coronado Inn and turning that into the Grand Floridian Victorian Resort, which had nothing to do with Florida or Florida architecture, and saying this is old Florida,
Yeah.
They just kind of adapted it to their needs.
Yeah, absolutely. And the style of the graphic design, which I love, all of the logos and things that were done, the gurgling suitcase, all those, that was all done from the style of a place called the Charles Spencer Anderson Company, which was from Minneapolis, which happened to be a big trend in graphic design at the time. So that, sort of like 1930s, like old throwback was really a lift from this CSA stuff that was really popular at that particular time. Yeah. But it works, that's the thing. It all works. Here's the thing, if you've never been to Key West, you walk there and it instantly feels like you're in Key West. So,
Yeah. You check the box.
Exactly. Check the box, like, well done.
Feels good.
Well, what did Marty Sklar tell us about World Showcase? When you walked into them, those countries were meant to evoke what you expected to find there.
Yes.
If you walked into Italy or Germany, not necessarily what you would actually find in Italy or Germany.
Except near the case of my grandmother, when I'd be watching a travelogue about the real Germany, real Italy. She'd go, "Hey, that looks just like Epcot."
That mission accomplished.
They nailed it.
Yeah, they did it. All right, well, it is the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney World now. It's late 1991. And JT, on cue, they go on sale. What did they cost? What did they start at?
Let me go back to my notes here. $11,000, I think.
$11,730. And they said that it'll be anywhere between that and $15,500. Now, if anyone wants to get the inflation calculator,
doing it right now.
I knew you would be. Knew somebody would be. What are we looking at?
1991. Are we saying here?
Yeah.
11,730.
Yep.
Is $26,000 now. 26,126.
Okay, 26, and then they wanted an annual fee of $500 for maintenance.
500 would be $1,100 now.
Okay, and that was times 50 years, so you had $25,000 in dues. So you had 50 years, you had $36,000, and then if you financed it, and granted, those we know it wasn't 500 flat for 50 years, right?
Right.
It goes up every year. So we're gonna get into the money in a bit. Doesn't work. We know why they sell it. You don't sell these things if they don't work for the seller. You sell them because they make the company money.
Are you telling me the house always wins, Todd?
The mouse always wins at this case.
Oh, he tossed that softball up there.
Yeah, it was an easy one. All right.
Is it true that, and I know this has changed over the years, back then, did you get like free park admission?
That I can tell you.
This is amazing.
That I can tell you because in the first promo video they did for it, they were included until 1999. So for your to get people to buy.
Yeah.
So what happened was, depending on what you rented or owned or used your points for, if you got like a studio or a 1-bedroom, it gave you admission for 2 people. But if you got like a 2-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, they would give you admission for up to 4 people included, park hoppers in the initial 8-year run.
Yep.
Until you hit 99. And then
so you got 8 years of park admission.
And that was their pitch. Now it may have extended beyond that. I don't know. We're not finished the episode yet.
So that sounds a little better. Like that's not.
I mean, my take before we go through all this is it was a very good deal in those first couple of years when they were really pushing it. They laid on the incentives, and you could quantify in dollars the value of, well, versus paying to stay at the places, we're making a good investment, Martha. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And progressively over 20 years, I mean, they just chipped away at all these different advantages.
Yeah. So you got 230 points with that. So I'm sure we have DVC owners and DVC users and DVC buyers out there. Feel free to comment, because this is where a lot of us, we're not tuned into what the going rates are. And, you know, I know a little bit about the points and all that.
Before we get into our own takes on these, is why no one is judging anyone. No. I know a lot of DVC owners. I know people who own multiple DVCs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They have several contracts. In fact, I sent Todd in the group an article yesterday from someone on the Points Guy who just wrote a guest column about how they bought 2 contracts because they've done this math where if they resell it, it pays for itself, based on a bunch of
you gotta spend a lot, but
factors. Yes.
Are you well, we'll get to that in a minute. So here's the other interesting thing. So it does.
So
say
please don't write us nasty emails I bought it. You're calling me stupid. No,
you have to do what is right for you and where you want a vacation. Different people have different things, and people put their money. You're investing in memories and you're investing in fun. That's completely fine. It's a different type of investment. Anyway, so marketing will be low key. This is from another article. There were 2 booths at the Magic Kingdom, one at Epcot that distributed. But here's the interesting thing. No grandfather clocks. No gifts or incentives will be offered just for going through the preview center and hear the pitch. Now, I do remember, and DVC owners and people who did this recently, maybe 5-6 years ago, they would give you some fast passes if you went through. So they have changed that a little bit. They'd give you a little...
We got lunch.
You got lunch?
Like meal vouchers.
I was going to say, I seem to remember at some point getting pitched that you get like a dinner ticket or something. Yeah, some meal voucher.
Yeah, we did the thing, and they picked us up at the resort, the whole deal. Then we got the lunch in the theme park the next day.
Sorry. Do you remember what you ate, JT?
You know, I don't. I don't think my mom would remember either. I don't even remember where we went that day. But it was
hot dog, mac and cheese, and applesauce.
It was a sit down. It was that I was old now. I was in like middle school when we did it. So,
steak and bourbon.
That's right. Put hair on my chest.
So the other thing, it just talks about, Brian, what you said, where they got the free admission, and then also they had a 15-day grace period. So basically you had a cool-off period of 15 days where you could get your money back. Like, oh, crap, what did we do? Now...
Oh gosh, you may have making that call.
I gotta tell you a funny.
Like they didn't let that happen.
I gotta tell you a funny little story. We have our lake house up in northern New Hampshire, and we've learned a little bit about the history. It was developed by some Boston development company, and they would go up there, and they had a very interesting way of selling the property. We just learned this recently. They had ads in the Boston Globe. Come up here, for $50, we'll put you up. Come see this. Come buy the land. It's a fantastic investment. They had about 1,100 lots to sell, and they put a pool up at the top of one of the mountains overlooking the 3 lakes, and it was built by an Austrian company of 1-inch thick steel, and it cantilevered out over the cliff. So when you were in the pool, you were looking over. The pool's unfortunately no longer there, but they would take you up there. They had a lounge. They had a lodge. Here's a drink, Mr. Bowers. I want to talk to you about this land. We're going to go see it.
Guten Tag.
Yes, they drive. It's called Edelweiss Village.
Yeah,
all of our roads are named like
Buxom
Fraulein, Interlaken,
giant 40-ounce beers.
So they give you a drink. They bring you downstairs or down the hill. They show you this wonderful property. It's right on the water, and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, $3,000! This is amazing." Bring you up. You're in the pool. The kid. They wanted couples. And you go up there and you're in the pool, the pen's in your hand, you've got another whiskey drink, you sign, you're like, oh, this is fantastic. You go home. Mr. Miles comes up the next day. They lather, rinse, repeat. They show him the same property that Hal just purchased. And Mr. Kuzier sees the same property the next day that he just purchased. A lot of these people go away. We got property. They never invest it. When they finally do come up and investigate, I got a property that's in the woods that has a giant boulder that needs to be blasted. So you never really knew what property you were purchasing for the first couple of years. They were just selling the same lot over and over and over, but changing out the contract of what you actually purchased, which was crazy. In fact, we found out that a lot of lots up there, the 1,100, most of them are, I shouldn't say most, but a fair number of them are unbuildable. About 600 lots have been since developed. It's a very large piece of property. Don't get me wrong. This isn't like a city. And they also promoted water skiing and all these different things on the lake. And they had basketball courts and all sorts of stuff. And then the kicker was they said, oh, see this parking lot? Oh, yeah. That's where the stables are going, and the horses will take you up the mountain. They never had an intention of building stables or anything. So anyway, I thought that was a funny little story of
what's in the contract versus
what they tell
pitch,
you. Exactly. So anyway, they didn't have the 15 days
you build a
remorse
Persian resort
period
either.
Exactly. There was no Persian area. So all right, so where the magic never ends is the tagline, and we have some. I'm gonna. Well, we're not in 1993 yet, but I will pull some things out here.
Is that because the payments are ongoing?
That's right. The magic, the pain never.
No, the payments do end because we're only allowed to finance. What's that, over 5 years? I think
5. Yeah, something like that. You had to have deep pockets. So I'm going to show you these because my grandparents got these. These were the renderings that were handed to them. So it's the renderings of the. These are on glossy Kodak paper. Right, here's a rendering of the resort.
That looks right.
This last one,
right.
And then the inside of of the studio and stuff.
The Disney Vacation Club gives you the flexibility to choose from 4 sizes of accommodations. Our spacious deluxe studio is the perfect choice for couples and small families. It offers 2 queen-size beds and comfortably sleeps 4. Enjoy sunny afternoons and cool evenings out on your own private patio. The deluxe studio also offers a color television, mini refrigerator, microwave oven, a wet bar, and a full-size bath. Our spacious 1- and 2-bedroom vacation homes provide your family with the convenience of a home away from home.
Interesting enough, the studios that you're thinking about today are not the studios back then. The studios now are very long. These were kind of a triangular, trapezoidal type studio, which was very interesting. And because they could be accessed from the outside, they could kind of cut them off from one bedrooms.
They were sort of small.
Yeah, and then they're showing like 2 twin beds. It looks like I think it's more like 2 small queens. But
oddly enough, although I never bought DVC, I got to stay in those during the first years quite often because my girlfriend's parents always rented those when they went over because they would bring over several people, and so I got to stay in those Key West, quite a few of those Key West things.
Funnily enough, all of the reviews I read now are that the old Key West DVC rooms are bigger than all of the other.
They're the biggest rooms on property.
They are.
I would say probably for the vacation home, for the villas, yes, they're probably the biggest. The studio looks a little
I mean, I will tell you, the Bay Lake Tower was laughably small. Like it was.
No, that studio was bigger than anything I've been in DVC wise. I mean, I had like a separate. It felt big.
Yeah.
Now
a lot of room to do activities.
I did stay there. I'm gonna see if find my photos. We did stay there at one point. I should have some photos of that.
We do have on the YouTube channel. We'll link some of those in the show. Some of Hal's VHS videos, I think, right?
Yep. Yeah, I did walkthroughs of those for some reason back then, didn't I?
I know. Yeah. I can imagine what those parents thought of you. Like, what's this guy doing? Don't touch anything. I want to film it.
Videotape Tommy over here.
Exactly.
I was like the kid in, what was it, 16 Candles? Or what was the movie where the kid was always taping stuff? I can't remember now.
You were basically every YouTuber in 1992.
Or the Goldbergs guy.
Yeah.
The guy from the Goldbergs that videotaped his entire life.
So it's early '92. We've got a Mideast war that had going on. His Disney decade was a little tight, and they kind of really revamped the boardwalk plans and kind of slowed it down. Wasn't really able to begin. And actually, there was another thing called the Disney Vacation Club West, which was just north of the Yacht and Beach Club, was going to be made. So that's why they called it West. It kind of made sense. It was going to be very similar to the one. The entrance would have kind of been in an odd spot, actually, around the Epcot entrance. It was you could, well, it butted up against the Epcot entrance. And then the entrance was actually to the right across from Yacht and Beach. You know where you're going to Yacht and Beach?
Yeah.
If you go across the street, that's where you get into Disney Vacation Club West.
We may yet see a DVC resort at the Epcot entrance.
Yeah, apparently it's buildable.
Keep talking about it.
It's walkable. So yeah, when you think about that, it would be basically to the west of Imagination and Soarin', and between that and Yacht Club. So that's where it would be. So here we are. First year of sales did $50 million, which is crazy, and that brings us to 1993 when my grandparents requested information. So I showed you gentlemen the photos there, and I also have a point card, so we can play a little game here if you'd like.
Now, let's say with your membership in the Disney Vacation Club, you have 270 vacation points to use yearly. Here are some of the ways you can use them.
Just to be confusing, we have 5 different seasons of staying and 4 different places to stay. So do you want the adventure, the choice, the dream, the magic, or the premiere season? Which would we pick?
Oh, I hate this game because I always go in the most
You
expensive
do? Well,
time.
what do you think is the most expensive season there?
I could tell you if I looked at the chart.
Expensive, right?
Okay, that's April 12th to 25th, and Christmas 24 to 31.
It's Easter week and Christmas week,
Yeah,
So
that's when we're free to go.
Are we going with a grand villa or a what size house? What should we go with? The studio, 1, 2, or 3?
Well, are we all going? All 4 of us?
Yeah, you guys are going to guess how many points.
Then studio, if we're all going.
All 4 of you are going. It says it sleeps 4.
up.
It's going to be chummy. All right, so Sunday through Thursday, how many points a night was it? And then how many points on Friday and Saturday?
12.
It was 15 for Sunday through Thursday, and went up quite significantly. Friday through Saturday, 38 points.
Wow.
Wow, more than double.
Yeah, really, really high. And in fact, Friday through Saturday, I'm assuming that's that's Friday through Saturday. Like you get all 3 days, because it's saying weekly is 158 points. No, that would be
wasn't the minimum buy-in 150 points or something like that?
170, because what they're saying, the Grand Villa, which sleeps 12, it says weekly is 680 points. Whew.
Good.
All right, well that's the most
That's the
expensive
big one,
place.
yeah.
That's it.
So the cheapest way you could go would be the adventure season, which starts New Year's Day and early September and early December, which kind of makes sense.
New Year's Day was traditionally a very slow day for them.
Yeah, before
So
it
it was
became
when it would start to
something.
slow down. Everybody had to
Right,
go
yeah.
home and go back to school or go back to work. But on the promotional videos, which were after the place was a year old, there were people saying, "Oh, well, we bought the cheapest level, but it's going to give us 2 weeks. We come in the value season, so it's going to give us like 2 weeks here, and that's what we usually come 2 weeks a year.
Yeah,
Two
So I
different
have-
trips.
This is 1990. It says March 1993 on it. These are 2 of the financing options as well as the number points. So at this point, you could buy 230 points or 270. At least that's what I've got. You could get up to a 10-year loan. You could do that, and if you had an APR with direct deposit. And the funny thing is that they don't tell you what the monthly payments are. They're actually asterisks out, because do you have any idea what the APR was?
Back then,
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
like 10, 12%.
11 and a half.
Yeah,
for
yeah.
10 years. If you took it for 12 months, it was 6. Now I know we are kind of in a time right now where interest rates are going back up, but 93. I remember my parents purchased a house in 84 for the first time, and I think their mortgage was something like 15%. So
Yeah.
So it had come down a little bit. So yeah, 15,120s, annual dues already up to 691, minimum down payment 3,000, financed a year 650 a month. If you went with a 5 months, 259. Essentially, a very expensive car for 5 years.
Yeah.
So a lot of math, and if you financed, you were paying a lot more. Let's just do a little math here. Hold on, get the calculator. 390 times 36 months, 14,000 plus the down payment 3024. You wanted the floor mat, so we're going to add that in. So you paid $17,000 for the $15,000 buy-in. And
in
then you
addition to having to pay an annual fee.
so right. So let's just see
500
what
a
you
year.
paid over the first 36 months. In the first 3 years, it was 17,000 plus 691 times.
I feel like I'm in that
Times
room.
three,
In the
right.
dealership I don't like.
So
Just stop. Just let me take the car and get out of
You
here.
paid over $19,000 in 3 years for 50 years of vacations, but you still have to pay dues.
Did you say there was a monthly fee?
No, annual
Well,
dues.
if you find-
I was doing the
for the
monthly
year.
payment.
Okay. Oh, gotcha,
the
gotcha,
monthly
gotcha,
payment.
gotcha.
Monthly
Right.
payment until you've paid off your financed
Right.
amount.
And that was at a moderate 10%. You take it over 60, 84. And I love option 5 with all the asterisks on it and the small fine print at the bottom.
So I got into in the early years of Twitter, I got into like conversations with people who own DVCs.
Mm-hmm.
And I would occasionally, when the topic had come up or they would change some benefit, I would give back when you used to just throw opinions out on the internet, I would say, these timeshares don't make any sense, like, to me. I don't get it. And I remember one guy responding to me, and obviously in the Twitter history somewhere, the guy responded to me and is like, it's a great deal. And, we get to go every year and it's, we $1,100 and we get to spend 2 weeks down there. And I said, well, but you're not calculating the $27,000 your dad paid,
right,
initially for that. Like you're not including that in the. I said, if you, for me, because my whole thing was when I would compare it, I'd say it makes more sense for me to book the room that I want at a discount or that I'm willing to pay for,
right,
and not have to give them $20,000 for the right to book that room.
Yep.
That in the long run, I think I'm making, making out better on the deal because I just move around where I stay. Now I stay off property most of the time, but
right. So like I said, you are pre-buying memories, and it's also for people that's where they want to be, and they want to be in the Disney sphere for all their vacations. It might work out well, but you're absolutely right, Brian, in that you have to look at the best way to get a DVC is to have somebody you inherit it.
Yeah, somebody else buy it. That's what my friend who does it. It's $1,500 a year,
and you're good for whatever time's left. If my grandfather, if I had inherited this from my grandparents, I'd be very happy. I'd be like, okay, I'll use these points or I'll sell them. So, but when you do the math, what a lot of people don't think about too when they do this math is, to your point, adding it all up, the $27,000 spent, and you divide it by the number of years you're going to have it. There's at a point where you may not want to go anymore. Life might change. Kids grow
or
up.
less. Less. And of course, their big pitch is, well, you can use your points to go somewhere else. You can trade them.
It's
and
always
go to
very
here
hard,
and there,
right? Yeah, it's always it's like frequent flyer miles on the next airline, right? Like the partner.
Right.
Well, the partner only opens 6 seats, and you can go to Missoula or Bangor, Maine. So the other thing that people have to remember too is exactly to your point. When you give money to somebody, you're giving up the chance to make money off of that. Now, let's just use today's rates right now. Like, I have a car loan from 2 years ago that's 0.99%. And people say, oh, you've got 2 years left on. Just pay it off. You have the cash. You can pay it off. I said, no, I won't.
No.
Why would I pay that off? My money in my bank.
It's almost free money.
Right. My money in my bank is making almost 4% right now in the high yield savings. So that if I put the money in the car, I'm not making. I'm losing 90.99%. Otherwise, I'm making 4%. So it's a 3% by holding on to that money. Go ahead.
This is our Disney Institute personal finance class you're taking right now.
There we are. Everybody gets a certificate at the end. So when you give money, and when now imagine a situation where you had DVC, you purchased it and you financed it. Because you're financing, you're increasing the cost of your vacation over that period of time. So if you have cash, the best way to get it is to inherit it. The second best way to get it is buy it outright cash when there are low rates. And then the third way to buy it is to finance it. Now, what we all can't predict is the future, but the future money goes up. So what we can probably have enough of, there's a website out there that tracks the history of the dues on the points over the course of the years, over the course of the life of these resorts. So we can probably, with pretty good accuracy, project where they're going to be. So my wife said to me one night, she said, do the math on it. I'm just curious. And I don't remember the specifics of it. And I'll be honest, I stay at DVC places, but people who want to sell their DVC points, if there's anybody out there who wants to sell me some, I am looking for Alani next year. So please email me. I need some Alani points.
Sell direct to Todd.
Yep. I'll
cut out the middleman.
Exactly. Cut out the middleman. We'll help each other out. But she says, if we bought it and these people that are selling it and there's the middle person and you got to do all that work, would it ever break even? Would you get to the point where you could make potential money on it? And I did the work, and it was so slim to get there. And when you really did, you might not have enough years left over to pay for itself. So I think the best way you can say is that if you're going every other year and you're selling for $15 to $18 a point, you can help offset the investment that you know and help offset yourself and maybe not feel like you need to go every year. 'Cause I think you can bank a year. So you could really theoretically sell 2 years, go a year, sell 2 years and go. That might be your best way to cushion what the expense is.
If you need more vacation points for this year's vacation, you may be able to borrow up to half of your vacation points from the upcoming year. Also, you may be able to save or bank some or all of your vacation points from this year and use them the next year for a longer stay, a larger vacation home, or for more visits. While some limitations apply for banking and borrowing, we'll be glad to help you find a plan that will work for you.
We may want to come down here with other friends, and we have the ability to borrow points or to use points to get a larger unit. Or when our son is going to school and we want to come down here ourselves, we can save 1 points 1 year and get a smaller unit and save up some points for a larger unit another time.
Perfect to Brian's point, though. Look, this is my philosophy and the way I think about it. I don't want to dissuade anybody or like who's thinking about purchasing. I don't want, like Brian said, I don't want you emailing us and yelling at us. We'd love to get opinions. But I'm happy for those that do purchase into timeshares and get value out of it for the family and want to know. You know, sometimes people come in with a lot of money for 1 year and they need to spend it or whatever, or somebody gifts them money and they buy it. And then the dues don't feel that bad over the course of 30 years because it's $1,500 a year they're going away for vacation, which is cheaper than calling up Disney and booking 2 weeks.
Spending
right?
$7,000 to stay at the Contemporary for a week.
Right. So like my coworker did. Remember?
Yes, yes I do. That's why I said it.
That was it. Yeah, I knew the 7,000 came. So
I really think you hit on it with the memories.
That's
what they're
exactly
trying to get.
right.
You go, and a lot of people go to Disney how many times?
Once, right.
Twice. They want that feeling
over and
over again. And when you catch them in that moment, they're interested in buying
I'm going to say a couple things about this. First, in that first promo video they did for it, which is 14 minutes long, it's on YouTube. You can tell by the people they're interviewing, the target audience are your, late middle age, early senior. I have a lot of money. I'm buying this to bring my kids and my grandkids, and it's a good deal. They're obviously anytime you're targeting people who have assets, who have liquid cash that they can put into this or have the ability to finance it, where it's not a tough decision for them.
Right.
And there were a lot of benefits back then. But I'll give you my neighbors across the lot here who I've been great friends with for 20 years. They bought a timeshare in Aruba when they were in their early 50s, maybe. They went down there to a resort that I have another friend who owns a timeshare in the same Aruban resort. Mm-hmm. But they bought a timeshare. They went down there one winter for vacation. They loved it. They bought the timeshare. And the whole idea was every year as the kids are through college and beyond, we're all going to gather as a family in Aruba every year. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're going to do. And that'll be our time together. And of course, what happens is your 20s and your 30s come into play and you're working and you don't want to go on vacation with your parents. You want to go to Club Med with your friends or to Vegas with your bros or, you end up dating or getting engaged to someone. You want to travel with your fiance or your husband or wife. You start to have kids. Basically what they said was after like a year or two, their kids never wanted to go.
Right.
And so they said after about 5 years of, going to the same place every week, the same week every year in the winter and trying to find people to go with it, they'd sold it. They just resold it.
We know that people's plans change, their needs change, and their families grow and change over time. So when we designed the Disney Vacation Club, we knew it had to offer the kind of flexibility that families need. The key to that flexibility is a unique and innovative system of Disney Vacation Points.
So I think one of the things we should do, getting away from the math and the logistics of timeshares in general, is to talk a bit about this specific resort. Hal did talk about the architecture and the feel, the idealized Key West feel. I think when you visit it today, part of it is a snapshot in time, and what happens is when you embark on a venture where you're building something abnormal to what you've normally built. We're down there. They were building hotels. They were building places for people to come and stay as a rental property. These were much more geared towards stays of a week or more, and ovens in the room, and stoves, and The thing I noticed visiting the resort today, because it's got a great restaurant in Olivia's, which I think has always been a great restaurant, and the when you go to eat there, if you're not staying at Old Key West, the thing you immediately notice is that there are cars everywhere on the side of the road, just like people throw their keys, like Creed when he's manager at Dunder Mifflin. He pulls up and just throws the keys in the parking lot and says, "Keep it running." And it's because I guess the traveling public over the years, a lot more people have cars than they had originally, I guess, calculated. So as a result, there's people parked in parking spaces, and then there's people parked all over the side of the road in places in there, and they're staying at Old Key West. And that is my strongest impression every time I pull in there. It's also a bit of a labyrinth. If you can find, what do they call the hospitality house, or the main place where you check in, the main building?
The hospitality. Yeah, I think of the hospitality house.
And you check in there, and then you go to your resort, and that's just that is always what kind of hits me there, is the sense of isolation almost from the rest of Walt Disney World when you're in that resort. A lot more so, I think, than some of the other ones.
It felt like nature-y too.
Yes.
You'd get out in your balcony, you'd have a water feature, you'd have woods or trees. It just felt like, because you kind of meander when you drive too. The roads curve, and you end up, you're like, where am I? And then you end up and you're tucked back.
It's a resort community.
Yeah, but that's
more so than
got to be kind of what they were going for too. I think a little bit, because you were selling it, right? You wanted to feel. Look, the whole welcome home thing didn't come out until the last 10, 15 years, right? But look, they were trying to sell that type of thing too. Just
and I'm really
being
fascinated
away from the.
Yeah,
it was a different experience.
And I'm really fascinated because when I went, it was literally just the hospitality house and maybe the first pod of buildings there in the parking lot. So you'd drive in, and it was just like this fortress of places to stay directly around you. But I'm looking at the map now, and I'm seeing what you guys are talking about, how these roads lead off into the woods, and there's just these other buildings everywhere now. Which is the first time I'm becoming aware of it. So what a different experience. Because one of the things that was really kind of appealing initially was that you were a short walk from Olivia's and all of the things that that resort had to offer. But now you'd have to get
now there's 4
you'd have to
pools.
get a car or a bus or something to get around, because it doesn't look particularly walkable either.
No, this is one of the same as Saratoga. This is an internal bus loop, one I believe, and then said you stay deep. There's its own pool for the back corner of each area, and it's very similar to Saratoga. The feel of it being spread out and big, and then we touched on it has a golf course around it too.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at this. It's runs right up the middle of it.
Yep,
but it does have its own boat launch to now Disney Springs, but Downtown Disney Springs.
Well, what's interesting, guys, a lot of those were there in the beginning too. These ones you're talking about. I'm looking at aerials from 1995. It hasn't changed. And the pool was there too, and it's just all the pools.
And it was a test resort for them. I mean,
Yeah.
they were seeing if there was a market for this, and they found out there was, and then they immediately began, let's start building more.
Yeah, right. But the layout certainly changed, right? When you think about the resorts that Disney built in the late 80s, so take a look at this one. Take a look at Caribbean Beach. Think about Port Orleans and what was then called Dixie Landings, Riverside. They were all very, very spread out. They were a different type of resort that they're building now too.
Right.
So,
Well,
nothing over 3 stories.
Yeah.
Right. And what they're selling now as DVCs, if you look at Bay Lake Tower, the new one they're building at the Polynesian, the tower that they added at Coronado Springs, right?
Yep.
That's not DVC. Where they add the Caribbean Beach, they added a tower there too, right? I think they added a tower there.
Yeah.
Or planned to add a tower there, wasn't there? I forget.
No, Caribbean there's one at Caribbean Beach.
Is there a tower now at Caribbean?
Yeah.
I thought there was.
Because one's Riviera.
But that's not.
There's
I don't
Riviera,
think that's not DVC.
And then there's
Riviera, but it's not.
So if you look over at those things, I mean, really, what they're selling now is condos. I mean,
Yeah.
they're selling apartments, hotel rooms that are souped up. It is not this pseudo townhome anymore that the original DVC, because that's really what Old Key West is.
Correct.
It's like going into a townhome community.
So, JT, you saw in one of the things what people would do in these townhomes, right? That was expected, right?
Yeah. No, it was going back to that, it was very much like the reason we did the spiel, because you'd watch these videos and you'd see this, it felt very much how we vacation. Like, we stayed at the cabins at Fort Wilderness for a big chunk of time. We cooked there. We didn't do a park day and make like a casserole, but we'd have frozen pizzas. We used an oven. We did that sort of stuff. And yeah, they show the kids playing board games, the mom's making literally a turkey in the oven. I mean, it's a whole thing. And it's, then somebody's sitting there watching TV, and it's that typical, we've got the grandparents, the parents, the grandkids, everybody's in here having a great time doing everything you can do in a house, basically.
Yeah.
And in the 90s, if that included free park admission, which did, that's a great deal. Like, of course I'll make a turkey dinner. It doesn't matter, because
I'll go whenever I want.
I don't want to get my $120 worth, or back then $70 worth, or whatever, for my park hopper ticket, because I didn't pay for it. It's already included in the thing. Well, if you're cooking a turkey for 2 people, we need to have a conversation.
Well, okay. So, JT, you said you saw a video, right? Mom was making a casserole or something?
Usually, yeah, she's, as they do the panning shot and the, showing the room size, she's pulling it out of the oven for there's fresh baked cookies or.
So I have two theories here on this. Okay. The casual visitor to Walt Disney World who stays in a DVC room, or even those that own DVC points, we've stayed in 1 and 2 bedroom villas. We've stayed in studios, and I think those individuals who don't go often, they're going to get the most out. They want to get the most out of the parks and the visit. That kitchen area becomes the bagel in the morning, the place to put the food that you got from the doggy bag that because you took too much food, or you didn't finish your food at dinner. I don't know if anybody's really fully cooking meal, or you're hungry and the kids, you go down and there's a DiGiorno pizza in the freezer. But people, and I want DVC people to write in and tell me if it's true. I think people who use their points every year and there multiple times, they might say, hey, we're just here to enjoy XYZ and be here.
You're there for the resort.
Exactly. I'm going to cook. This is my home for 2 weeks, and I'm going to get full groceries.
Or you're at least having cereal for breakfast, and there's lunch meat and for sandwiches and at lunchtime.
Sure.
And maybe you're only eating out once a day.
Right. So I want to know, people write in, tell us that, have you cooked have you had a Christmas dinner? I'd love that. I'd come visit you.
You could call our
call
978-71 retro and leave a
correct.
message for us if you don't want to write out a whole email, and just tell us
exactly
how you use your DVC.
We'll get you on the air.
And then I want you to say, I got to go. The turkey's about done.
Exactly.
In there. I got to go.
900 degrees.
I did learn, and this was new for me. I think I was 27 the first time I stayed at a DVC in that age. And the trash thing got me, where they don't, we were there a week, like 9 days. And I'm like, no maid service on the regular. And this is pre-COVID, and no trash. And then there was like a separate area where you take your trash. And I'm sure all the DVC people are like, yes, you idiot, that's how we do it. That's the timeshare thing. That's that. But like, it wasn't like a normal hotel room.
No.
It was definitely a little different.
And they still don't, you have to ask for service, and the service is only every 4 days and certain things like that. So,
I mean, obviously, an advantage to staying there is also the washer and dryer and room. That
if you go with the one bedroom,
yeah, not in a studio. Yeah. But if you're taking enough people to do laundry, you're generally in something bigger than
we
a
had
studio, right?
7 of us this past April, and it rained and people's sneakers got wet. We tossed them in there, and we had food. It was handy.
Your neighbors love that.
Yeah, I think we started around 9 o'clock that night. It was great.
It went about 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, we're
fired it up.
So,
I will tell you the one time that happened to me, and I had a soaking wet pair of sneakers. I apologize to whoever in whatever hotel I was in used that hairdryer after me because
there you go.
I learned from hockey the hairdryer goes in the shoe at full blast. About 15, 20 minutes, it's bone dry.
Yep. There we go. So we've got we're in 1993 here. Disney starts to announce that they buy 70 acres of oceanfront property near Vero Beach, and added some things there.
Has anybody stayed there?
I have one night we stayed.
We
were down in West Palm Beach. We left and we were going to drive up to Cocoa Beach, and we said, we'll just stop off at Vero on the way. And I said, this is really nice. All right. Well, we walked in and we're like, hey, can we get a 1-bedroom for the night? Yeah, we got availability. The rate was fine. I'm like, all right, canceled the the one up the way a little bit. We had a wonderful stay, wonderful dinner. We did a mini golf competition that night. Found out the next day that we won against the other families. Glow in the dark rings and things in the dark. There were water slide competitions and very low key, but really nice beach, really nice area. So I had a great time.
Okay.
I last winter, 22, I on the same drive coming up from lunch in Miami. We were coming up out of the Keys, and we had lunch in Miami, and then hit Vero Beach around dinner time. Had dinner reservations at the restaurant there, whose name is escaping me at the moment, but we had dinner reservations at their sit-down restaurant and had a lovely dinner. And in the middle of dinner, our waitress came over and said, they're going to do a launch on the beach. So if you want, I'll keep your dishes warm and you can go out, walk out onto the beach here and watch the launch. So we did. And then the launch got scrubbed with like 4 seconds left or whatever. So we came back inside and finished our dinner and explored the resort a bit. And then we did end up that night in Cocoa Beach. Next day toward NASA. And that evening from the beach in Cocoa Beach, we got to watch the launch actually go off.
Oh, there you go.
And it was one of those Elon Musk ones that take off and then come back and land. And watching it land back on the pad that it took off from was one of the coolest things I've ever watched.
That was really cool. That's cool.
Did you go to the Wind and Waves Grill, Brian?
I think that's what it is, yeah.
Is that what the name of it is? Whatever the sit-down restaurant is there is where we went, and it was nice. It had recently been renovated. It's a big open kitchen, and but a beautiful
dining,
but
set sail.
The thing I remember is the map in the hardwood floor, like
yes.
There's like a full compass and map and stuff, and it just really because you could go up to the second floor and look down. Just a beautiful, really a lot of yacht club vibes. Very, very well done.
Yeah, it was very nice. They have great bike trails around the area. We rented some bikes and rode those through. So in November 1993, Disney wants to go to Hilton Head, and they want to build 68 oceanfront villas in the following summer, and then build another 100 of them built by 1996 on a nearby island. But they wouldn't really comment on those plans. The locals were kind of up in a roar, and it was not a thing for Hilton Head, so they wound up building elsewhere. And they do at JT? They move people around or something? They did something?
Well, it's not on the ocean.
Right.
It's they call it. It's on. Oh gosh, it's like a creek. I forget what
like
they
an
call
inlet
the creek
or
now. Yeah, it's like the property is on Hilton Head's Broad Creek, a landlocked tidal marsh on South Carolina's coast. And then they do have a pool house and like a beach type area on the water, so they'll take you over there to have beach access.
Okay.
But like if you want to walk from your room to the beach, you can't really do that. But it's nice. I've heard a number of people stay there, really liked it.
There you go.
I haven't been there yet, though. I've never been to Hilton Head.
Yeah, I've been to Hilton Head, but I haven't been there. So, so we break ground in 1994, but also, did you guys know this was another one that didn't go through? We talked about Disney Vacation Club West. This is the really true West one. Estimated $25 million. They bought 35 acres on the Newport coast. That is not Newport, Rhode Island. That's Newport,
That's
California.
Right by Balboa Island. And,
Yeah.
The beachfront community there.
Yep. So it was eventually going to be upwards of 650 units. And that eventually they announced it in March 1994, obviously following the success of everything. And it just did not wind up going through. And they announced a revised plan that would include a hotel, larger restaurant. So this is more than a year later. And it's just that we may delay the construction until 1997. And basically, you had Hilton Head opening in 96, but Newport was still going. It didn't start in 1997, and instead they announced in February 1997. 3 years later, they announced they were canceling the plans and putting the land on the market. Ironically, in 1988, Marriott announced plans for its first ever California coast vacation ownership resort located on the rolling hills overlooking the Pacific Ocean between Newport and Laguna. It was the former Disney site, and it opened in 2000 with its 55 units with plans for 650. So who knows? There's people say, they had debt from buying ABC, all sorts of different things, but you can still experience what it would have been like if you just go to Marriott Resort. That's all. So.
I'm looking to see where that is located in relation to where I stayed. I was in Newport Beach last year. I stayed at the Hyatt there because it's where Disney discovered Bob Moline and in that resort. And I'm looking where the Marriott is now. See how close they were. Actually, the beach is a little further over, so...
Well, we got a few more years to talk about here. We're going to kind of accelerate because there's not a lot going on. We're pushing forward with Hilton Head, the condominiums that they wound up putting up. The Disney Magazine gets an article on boardwalk construction. It's starting to be seen on satellite photos.
What's crazy is we did Old Key West, and we didn't come back to Disney World till 96.
Yeah.
They did the other two first, so you could tell their plans were to expand out.
Right. That whole Disney development company that bought Avita or whatever it was, Avita was at the beginning, or Vita, where was it, or whatever it was. But then we had a big event. A big event happened in 1995. Does anybody know what that is? Big DVC event.
No.
We lost the mountain. The mountain fell into the ocean, and the Vacation Club logo only has 2 mountains now. So the palm trees are still there. They're a little more, they're just one color rather than brown. But, Hal, you're our former resident logo and artist expert, so maybe you can stare at the two one of these days and go, I don't see a lot of differences. I don't know what would have motivated them. So
they really didn't change that.
No, the only thing I can think of is that the peaks got much more pyramidal, right? The other ones kind of have a little curve to them, and
yeah.
And they changed the color of the Mickey sun coming up to more of an orange from a bright yellow.
Yeah, they dropped sort of the dimension on the palm trees and just made them flat.
Flat, yeah. Cost saving. We can do this in 5 colors rather than 4 colors. So. Who knows?
That is interesting. It does make me wonder if at some point there was some sort of, reasoning behind the, behind the numbers of mountains and things. Maybe at some point someone said we'll do two ski resorts and a beachfront and this tree represents California, and this tree represents Florida, and this tree represents North Carolina. And then when they got rid of the third one,
like, whoops.
They're like, oh, take that out. We don't need that out anymore.
I also think, too, maybe it was easier when you shrunk it down, too. When you shrunk it becomes harder, easier to print with the... Oh, no.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Easier to stitch on a golf shirt.
I'm sure they would have done, single color versions and, different variations for those different applications, too. That is fascinating. I wonder why would they do that? The 3-1 definitely is like... The 2 is less balanced in a lot of ways.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we bring up new logos with how the discussions we have, show me the old Pepsi compared to the new Pepsi.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is a little less balanced, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
The waves look less sharp, too. Less dangerous.
Oh, that's true, yeah. They did look a little more... a little less harmless. So.
It's funny. I never really... Well... I won't say I never really looked at it because, of course, we've all looked at it over the course of 30 years or so. But
and I think it's gone off all the signs now. I mean, they got that mouse head now.
These, like, it's definitely. I think it was a product of its time.
Oh, it's a 90s logo.
Yeah, it's a totally 90s logo. So I'm not surprised that they would have at some point,
they
revamped
did
it.
Tamper down the turquoise too in the main font down to a more.
They got rid of the gradient in the background and took it to
took it down a little. Yeah.
Oh no, yeah.
It's got to be riveting for everyone listening to us.
All right. Well, we'll move on here. Let's Vero opens. So Vero opens in 1995, and what's interesting is that although sales at Vero Beach have been slow, Disney officials said that's because they've concentrated on marketing to people who want to book a trial stay. Now, if you heard me a little earlier, I said I just walked in and booked a room. It's a DVC only resort, but you can walk in and book. You can just book it. It's not a big deal to come in. So it's not like other DVCs where, yes, you can book at the Polynesian, but I don't think you can walk into Key West and say, hey, give me a room, so it's a little bit different. So then fast forward, we're almost done here because we're only going back 25 years to our little kind of rule there. But in 1996, the Vacation Club Resort was officially renamed to Disney's old Key West Resort, where that name still stands today. And then the Hilton Head Island opened a little bit later. And then they announced more of the Boardwalk Villas, and that would be the 4th DVC resort. So there's a wonderful picture here. Brian, you're gonna appreciate this. I'm gonna drop it in our channel chat here. Look at these two people just enjoying this pseudo room, and look at that red snapper down at the bottom with just fresh lemons and corn on the cob. That's when you think DVC. Don't you think a giant raw red snapper?
You got breakfast captured there in the photo, and then dinner. A full fish, a whole fish, like
bottle of olive oil
sitting there next to some kebabs and apples.
And a banjo.
Banjo and some wind instruments.
It takes you back to a livelier, more luxurious time. There's nothing more luxurious than unrefrigerated whole fish. So.
I just like that my man is rocking some white linen pants.
Yeah.
And he's not at all nervous about having that glass of orange juice hanging over it.
Is that after Labor Day?
He's got a tea time soon.
Got a tea time.
Definitely has a tea time soon.
Absolutely.
Now, they're saying they have a conference center that's 20,000 square feet of flexible, hospitable accommodations. What's the square footage at the yacht club?
Oh, good. It's a much larger. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, just some of the rooms over there are 12, 13,000 alone, 14,000. So
okay.
Yeah, the convention or conference space in the boardwalk is fairly small, compact.
Yeah.
Compared to,
I'm going to say, I'm very surprised the next one to come back was the boardwalk. I really didn't think that one was one of the early ones for some reason. That's where we did our tour back in the day when they had the models there, like that. Right there off the boardwalk, like come see the the trial high, and they had the different themes in there. They had one like Wilderness Lodge, they had one like whatever was out at the Animal Kingdom.
So we are now into our final year that we're going to talk about today, and that's 1998. They started to market all 4 resorts together, creating magical memories. So, right, we had Where the Magic Never Ends or Where the Payments Never End, and this is creating magical memories to cherish for years to come of the payments for years to come. So that was 1998. Nice, put together well. I mean, how when you look at the colors, it's a deep blue, a forest green, a purple, and a yellow orange. I mean, again, just 90s all the way.
I mean, they're just Disney's marketing machine has always worked really, really well. And so this was also a time period when they, in like the print magazine regional design annuals, they would win an award for one thing or another all the time. So they were really firing on all of the cylinders back then.
Yep, exactly.
Now, I want to add, we talked about earlier in the show the yellow Disney Vacation Club vintage bus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They're saying, I found a site here, they're saying it's from 1937, and it's from the White Tour Bus Company, manufacturing company, and they actually use these out west, they're saying. It like, they'd sometimes call them like a Yellowstone bus, so you'd load up that bus in the 40s and drive around the national park. This site says this particular bus at the DVC Resort was updated with a V8 engine and air conditioning, had some other improvements. Now, this is what got me. Sometimes you could find that bus parked outside of one of the theme parks, and if you were staying at the Old Key West Resort, you could hitch a ride back to your resort in it. So, special transportation. And then it also had a canvas roof that they'd roll it back, and you could basically stand there, but they said they don't think Disney allowed that, so it was always, and that would defeat the purpose of the air conditioning if they rolled the canvas roof back.
Was there a chance that James Earl Jones could be the driver, or?
If he was on break from
the
Institute. Exactly. He actually narrated when he.
See, now I had wondered if I kind of remember that van being functional at one point.
I would love to know where it went. That could be one that one of our eagle-eyed listeners. I could see Disney dumping that. That's just a 1937 bus with some mods onto it. That's a pain.
Well, later on in August of 1998, the Commodore House is demolished, and they finished the final building 62, 63, 64 to finish officially Key West. And what's interesting that brings in, then they could actually announce an official sellout. So in August 1998, they announced the Wilderness Lodge, JT, where you've stayed and I've stayed before. And also in August on that same day, the Orlando Sentinel just reports just months after its flagship timeshare resort became a sellout. So because it was demolished and yeah.
So what year did they change the name from the Disney Vacation? Okay, it was 96.
It was
96. January of 96, they renamed it to Old Key West.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So,
because imagine like, where are you staying? At the Disney Vacation Club Resort, and then there were multiple ones.
Yeah.
Right.
Excuse me?
Well, which one?
Yep. Now, what's interesting too is the buildings I was talking about that were added at Key West weren't completed until November 1999. But yeah, they were excited about the Wilderness Lodge. The two sites will be connected by covered walkways, and we'll be able to take advantage of their front desk and all of their restaurants, said Mariska Elia.
So we'll talk a little bit, I think we should, before we close out, about the modern, because it seems like they're always announcing, we're building a tower at Disneyland. We're building, they originally were going to build that Senses Resort or whatever it was called. Reflections. Next to
I always call it Senses too. Why is that?
Because
Senses is
similarly
that's the spot in Saratoga, isn't it?
Reflections just sounds like a rehab resort.
I think the word you were thinking of is senseless, not senses.
So, but the part of why they do that and add the tower and to some of these existing resorts and say it's a DVC tower and is because when you're trying to meet quarterly earnings numbers and there are people coming in plunking down now $25,000-$30,000 or more. Did we talk about what the current day investment is?
No, JT, you got something there on that?
I have into 2010. Bay Lake Tower was 18.
Right, and I believe now it's in the $25,000 to $30,000 range for some of the newer ones, maybe even more. I mean, that cash, when you finance it, it's not Disney financing it, right? Isn't it like Chase or somebody that finances it? But the bottom line is Disney gets that cash. And so they have, $25,000, $30,000, from each person that says yes. On top of that, that person is paying an annual fee to them, even if they don't show up. And on top of that, when there's available rooms, Disney just sells them to you. You can stay in those things. They come up on the list of places to stay when you're booking a room at Disney. So that's why so many of these newer resorts are DVC resorts, because basically Disney gets the money on both ends.
Yeah.
Eventually, that train runs out, but it hasn't yet.
Well, the train runs out, but a new train starts, because here we are. Those original things were 50 years. Okay, they as we said, they opened in 1990s. I can't remember what we said earlier. They're going to come up, in 20 years, and all of those contracts are going to be invalid, and they're going to start selling Key West again. And you're going to be on this rolling. I'm sure they're going to offer some way to stay in, right? But your contract is up. You have nothing to show for it at that point. And some people are going to re-up and pass it to their family and do that. But when you think about it, put your head in the investor sense. To your point, Brian, they're on both ends of this. It's fantastic.
Yeah, being the landlord, it's a great deal
tremendous
for them.
Because you can sell more people shares than you can fit in the hotel.
Right. And on top of all of that, we should talk about the big change that happened, 5-7 years ago in the resale market. So the big thing was you bought this, and then you could, down the line, you get divorced, or your life changes, or you're not traveling to Disney World anymore. You could sell it, and so I paid $20,000 for it, or $11,000 in this case back in 1990. It's 2003. And they're going for $18,000 now, so I'm going to list mine. And somebody offered me $15,000 for it. Well, I paid $11,000. So hey, it's a good deal. I'm going to sell it for $15,000. I don't have to pay the $800, $900 a year maintenance fee anymore, and I get this windfall. And it's handled like there are resellers or normal brokers for this. In every contract, Disney has the right to purchase it, to match the price and purchase it themselves. They have a buyback clause.
Yeah.
So what's been happening is in bad economic times, like during the pandemic, people were trying to resell their DVC at cut rate prices.
Yep.
And they would enter into a contract with someone to sell it for $11,000 or $12,000, and Disney would come and just buy it back.
Because how good is that for them? They're getting one off the market. They're going to resell it, and they resell it with the lower amenities that they had to give to that person. And the new contract.
Yeah. So somewhere, and I'm going to have the year wrong, but I wanted it 2015 or 17 or whenever it was.
Sure.
It was a great deal for a long time to buy somebody else's DVC contract because you could get it cheaper than Disney was selling it, and you got all of the benefits and amenities, the free parking and the discounted tickets, and it was basically like you had bought it directly from Disney.
Right.
And Disney recognized that they were losing out on that, so whenever it was, because my memory, everything is either 10 years ago or a year ago, and I don't remember what the difference is.
Mm-hmm.
They decided that starting on such and such a date, all resales get none of most of the benefits.
Right.
So you can buy in now on the resale market, but you don't get most of the benefits.
So I have to. I want to say a couple things about how DVC has. I'm sorry, JT. Did you want to add to that or?
No, I wanted to say I'm on their site here, and if you want to get into Riviera now, the purchase price is $32,500.
There you go.
At a studio?
I think so, and I don't know, but they break it down pretty good. And I mean, they say $449 a month plus 106 in dues, so you're 500. I mean, they give you all the math right there.
I mean,
there's nothing hidden about it.
They're
I'll
going to
say, which is
it's up to you to realize whether or not it's a value for you.
Yeah, and the other thing too though is they only have 4 for sale on here, so like you can't buy. I mean, obviously because they're sold out.
Now, I think what's interesting here too. I know very little of the timeshare industry, but I think we have to give a nod to what DVC has done to Walt Disney World and its other theme parks. Now, what we've learned is that they're focusing on the theme parks now, right? Vero Beach and Hilton Head, they did what they thought they would do. They curbed them back. They fought against locals. It was different, right? And Alani's had slow sales.
I mean, Alani, not only was it incredibly expensive to build, and they build it 45 minutes outside.
Most people can't get to it in under 8 hours.
There's a lot of things, but also the year after they opened, they increased your maintenance fee by 33%.
Wow!
So if your annual nut was $1,000, all of a sudden it was $1,333.
Yeah.
But originally, I mean, we should mention that their plan was to build one in Las Vegas and build one here and build one there. And I just think that, again, the years after this, they ran into problems in South Carolina. They ran into problems or North Carolina. They ran into problems in Virginia with building Disney's America. Everywhere they seemed to go, there was a pushback.
Yeah, they had a DVC in Maryland, another place. Yeah, it didn't. You're right. Yeah.
And so I think they're just, as you do in that scenario, you start to retreat.
Yep.
They were fighting with Long Beach about, whether they were going to build California Adventure down there. And
it just was, it's not like a pain because, exactly. Like, we'll just build them where we're allowed to build them in our own place.
So what I was going to say is that what has it done for the resorts? I mean, there's positives and negatives. The negative, I get to see a kiosk everywhere where I can have the opportunity to buy. Everywhere, right? On top of that, we've got they call us, everything's welcome home now, right?
Yeah,
that
I was just going to say, people, instead of people saying hello to me, they say welcome home.
They say it to me at Pop Century.
I don't live here.
Now,
I don't want to live here.
It's given a lot of people an opportunity to stay at different places they may not normally have stayed. I find the one interesting thing is that it also has popped up not only the resale industry, the points industry, and it has popped up more so grocery delivery than you would ever need in a regular hotel room. So you're bringing up these little cottage industries that never existed, and maybe they exist in different forms for other popular destinations and things. So it's interesting how it has changed that dynamic down there. And I mean, like I said, I buy people's DVC points. Again, second throw out there. You want to sell points? I need Alani. So yeah, email us, please.
I got a Facebook group for you, Todd. They do that.
I know. There's we gotta help me get hooked up. So I think it's really interesting because now you've got people profiteering, and I wonder when there are probably parts of these industries that Disney will just say, hey, we're not going to be a part of it. We're not going to get into grocery delivery. We're not going to get into resale. But I'm wondering if they ever will put their foot down on the point resale. Are there going to be contracts where you're not allowed, that it has to be you? I think it would be silly for them because
it gets somebody in the park.
However, it's getting somebody in the park, to Brian's point earlier, it's getting somebody in the point. But if you're not coming, I'd rather fill it with somebody who's going to pay rack rate,
right?
Or a discounted 15% off rate.
Listen, any good business wants to create repeat customers.
Yeah.
This was really one of their first steps at creating the cycle of, instead of someone coming once or twice when their kids were between 0 and 18, of the annual family vacation, which was not a normal thing. I know there was, we have listeners who we used to go every year. JT, that was your experience. I drove down in a camper and stayed 2 or 3 weeks, and but you didn't go to the parks every day. You didn't, that wasn't your experience.
No. Spring break.
Right. And when Hal was a kid and they would make those trips, there was Cypress Gardens and, Bach Tower and this and that. And they did other things instead of just hanging out at Disney. This was really all part of that effort to starting to pull people away from doing other things off property. And DVC was a big part of that. Yeah. And probably their first real foray into creating what we now call the Disney adult and the Disney lifestylers. And, the people who are there all the time, which was just not the clientele in the 70s and 80s. And so that, it's a monumental transformation that happened as a result of them opening this place.
Right. Absolutely.
To me, one of the most important words in the title is club.
Yeah.
They are getting you in there thinking that, you're which, I mean, hey, everybody wants to be part of something. And granted, if it costs $32,000, you're in it. I'm in this club. I can come to Disney twice a year. And this is my lifestyle, as you said. This is what I want to do. We got into the pitch, I remember, because they were pushing, you can go other places in usual points. You can go, it was, I think, an early version of Adventures by Disney, and that was kind of the thing. And I do remember hearing like, well, it doesn't transfer well to cruise ships. Like, it doesn't transfer, which we were like, well, what if we want to go on a Carnival cruise? Then we're kind of screwed this year because we don't want to go to Disney every year, that type of thing. Yeah. So, but definitely a good history lesson for
this. And they've got that 3-year shuffle where you can roll over points from the prior year and borrow from the next,
previous. So you can
up
do
to
a
half
vacation.
from the next.
Right.
And so you can plan like a giant expensive trip.
Exactly. But I'd love to hear from everybody, both sides of the coin. If you're a reseller, let us know what you think. If you're a buyer, let us know what you think.
If you had a terrible experience, let us know what you think.
Are you breaking even? How are you doing it? Love to hear, because obviously these are opinions from individuals who don't own and use DVC for different reasons. But well, gentlemen, thank you for coming back to the 90s with us and late 80s. It was fun to put this together, searchingnewspapers.com. And again, very good thanks to dvcinfo.com there for, like I said, they put all this stuff together. We wanted to use it and add color to it. It really works out well. So Brian, should we show real quick retro magic? We should talk about that real quick.
I talked about it already. Yeah.
All right. Well, if you haven't sent, I know, but I just want to get the people. They've been listening for nearly 2.5 hours now.
Please let the people go. Retromagic.org.
There we
September 30th, October 1st, Yacht Club Convention Center. Some of the most important people in Epcot history are going to be there, and we're going to be there. So you should come.
In the words of Doc Brown, you're going to see some serious so it's going to be good. So with that, thank you everybody for coming along back in time to the Disney Vacation Club. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, if you can, give us a shout out on iTunes, on Google Play, or wherever your favorite podcasting app. A review is much appreciated. If you like to obtain any of our merchandise or any types of T-shirts and designs that we do, head over to lbvhs.org/donate. And as Brian said, head over if you didn't get your tickets yet for Retro Magic. Get over there. There's hotel booking information for discounted hotels at the Dolphin, and we hope to see many of you there. And actually, we are on a countdown for the tickets to sell out, so that is coming up very much sooner than we had anticipated. So, with that, thank you much. We'll be back next month. You also will have a mid episode coming out probably in the next few weeks as well. A little musical act,
summer movie night at some point,
and
too.
A summer movie night. We have some more footage. One of our good friends actually went through the WESH, I believe, archives and found a pneumatic reel of something in a helicopter. And he said, well, if you rent the helicopter of the day, you must have to fly over Disney and do some other reports. So we've got some great B-roll footage coming our way. We've got some films, and we have some other spectacular stuff we're working on. So with that, thanks for listening. Brian, take us out.
Follow the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society on Twitter and Instagram at LBV History, and on the web at lbvhistory.org. For all things Retro Disney World, including exclusive merchandise, visit us on the web at retrowdw.com, and on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at RetroWDW. And follow our hosts, Todd McCartney, on Twitter at WDWMS, Hal Bowers on Twitter and Instagram at GoAwayGreen. JT Cougar on Twitter at LS1JT and on YouTube at Rubber City Motoring and on the web at rubbercitymotoring.com. And you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Brian P. Miles. Retro Disney World is the monthly podcast of the Lake Buena Vista Historical Society, a nonpartisan, nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 organization and is not affiliated in any way with the Walt Disney Corporation or any of its subsidiary or affiliated entities.